Hi guys, I just wanted to basically give you a tutorial video on how to create a composition using Klecky.com to illustrate the 7 elements of art. So in class, we went over the first step, which was to create 7 sections on your canvas that basically separate the canvas, the workspace, into 7 random sections. They don't have to be in any kind of specific kind of shape or anything like that. You just have to separate into 7 different sections. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 7 there. And then I'm going to decide line, shape, color, form, texture, value, and space. You can separate your canvas however you want. It doesn't have to be like this. This was just at random. Every time I did this lesson yesterday in class, I separated the canvas into, 7 unique sections every single time. It wasn't always exactly the same. And it doesn't have to be. So I'm going to start in the color section. And just remember, you have all of these tools over here on the right side of your screen. You have the paintbrush and you have the paint bucket, the hand tool, which moves your canvas around. You can zoom in or zoom out. And then undo or redo is a really helpful thing. We don't really need to play with layers too much this time. We'll get into layers later. But we're just going to work with color first by creating a spectrum, like a rainbow. So I'm going to start by selecting this bright red in the top right corner of my color picker. And I am going to increase the size of my brush tool just a little bit, maybe to like 50-ish. 55 is fine. And I'm going to start by just like coloring. Actually, let's make it a little bit bigger. Just coloring in some areas going from left to right. And then I'm going to switch it to find like a red-orange, because I want this like spectrum to kind of be like a gradual change. Let's find like a true orange or something close to it. Okay, yellow, orange. Just creating different rows that would mimic the 12 colors on the color wheel. But it doesn't have to be exact. I'm not like being too picky right now about... That was a little too close, so I went over the yellow too much. I'm not being like super picky about, the color. I just want it to like read as a rainbow. Let's do some blue-green, maybe another blue-green. Just creating like a nice rainbow spectrum that is aesthetically and visually pleasing. I'm just scooting this bar back and forth to try and find the colors that I think will make for a good composition. I missed a spot in the middle of that green, so I'm going to use the color picker to choose. So I select here, the color chooser, and I can touch the screen where I want to match, and it'll pick the color for me. So I can go back over and touch that up, which is kind of a nice tool. And then I'm going to clean up the left side of this section by using the eraser tool to erase where it kind of went over a little too much. So now I have a section of color, and I'm going to move on to shape. So before I start creating some shapes, I'm going to erase the word shape, and I'm going to change this line a little bit just to kind of make it a little, don't need green. I'm just going to make it a little bit cleaner on the side. And remember, your shapes can be organic or geometric. I would like to see a combination of both because I want to know that you know what both of those are. So I'm going to just start and make some funny shapes here and just fill in the space as much as I can with just random stuff, right? That one was a little sloppy, so let's redo that one. Okay, and then I'm going to go back and select a color on the color picker, switch to the paint bucket, and fill that background in so it has like some interest, some visual interest. I'm going to maybe color this one and that one blue, and color this one and this one like a red violet. Maybe add some yellow in there. And then maybe another an orange color. So now I've got my shape section all squared away. I'm going to switch back to my paintbrush, find the black, and I'm going to experiment with some different types of lines. So I'm going to erase where it says line. And I don't want you to just do one line horizontal back and forth throughout the whole thing. You can start with some horizontal lines. That's fine. Maybe 2 or 3. And then, like, mix it up, you know? Kind of get creative. Use this as a way to experiment with different ways of mark making. Maybe you have some dash lines. That last one went over too much. There we go. And then maybe some swirly, curvy lines, wavy lines. Whatever kind of lines, zigzags are really cool. And then maybe go back in and finish with some horizontal lines again. And I'm just going to undo that because that bothered me a little bit. Just to add some variation there. Don't just put one type of line the whole time. That's super boring. But then I'm going to switch back to the paint bucket tool, and I'm just going to drop in some color in some of these areas. Because color, even though you have to have one section that's obviously a specific use of color, and that could be a spectrum scale like what I did, the rainbow, or maybe it's a set of analogous colors. So analogous colors are colors that are closely related on the color wheel. They're right next to each other. If you need to look up a color wheel, you can Google color wheel and it'll show you what I'm talking about. But yeah, fill these in with some little bit of color here and there, and it just makes it look nicer. All right, so I'm going to switch back to my brush. I'm going to erase the word texture, and I'm going to experiment with some textures here on the app. Let's switch it back to black because I'm going to make something that looks drippy. So I'm just using line basically to create this implied texture that this is liquid, some sort of liquid or goo that's dripping off the side of this area. Uh-oh. That's what happens when you accidentally touch the black lines. It'll fill it all in with whatever color you're using. So you have to be really careful to touch in the tap in the right, click in the right spots. So yeah, that's fun. That's an implied texture. You could also do, a rough texture, which maybe would be like brick, or a smooth texture, which would be, maybe not smooth, a soft texture, which would maybe be like clouds or a feather, or, something that looks hairy or fuzzy or whatever. You guys can come up with better ideas than me. I'm sure of it. So this is fun. Has kind of like a neon look to it. Switch back to your paintbrush. Oopsies. Okay. Eraser. I'm going to erase where it says value. And then I'm going to start with the darkest. So you can move this back around, and I'm going to go to the bottom darkest point on here. And I'm going to just start filling in on the bottom with black. So outlining the shapes that you've randomly created can sometimes help you kind of organize a little bit better. And I'm just going to move the color picker up the side of this color block to create a value scale. So a value scale is just dark to light, light to dark, where you go from the darkest, most intense black to the lightest, most intense white. And these marks can be like however big or small you want. It's fine. There's no wrong way to do this except to not do it at all. And it's just kind of fun to draw around and mess around using this website. All right, and I'm gonna switch back to black and just clean up my line on that side and on that side. The easiest way, and I'm just going to show you the easiest way, if you want to try one of the more complex ways to illustrate space, you're more than welcome to do so. If you know how to do 1 point or 2 point perspective, you can illustrate depth and space visually that way if you want to. But I'm just going to utilize positive and negative space by creating, splitting my shape into 2 halves and then creating an organic form on each side, or organic shape on each side. And then I'm going to illustrate the positive space by filling in the subject, and then illustrate the negative space by filling in the background, right? That's it. That's all you got to do for space. You just some sort of shape. Don't make it look exactly like mine. That's super boring. I do not want a bunch of, examples that are basically just this exact composition. This is just one way. I would really like to see a lot of differentiation in the compositions that you make. I had some students who were talking about, creating some sort of landscape and then doing the designs. Had one student say that he wanted to, sketch out the number 7 and then split it up into different sections. So 7 for 7 elements of art. However you want to do it, get creative. You don't have to use this, format that I've given you. As long as you can submit and upload a composition that illustrates that you understand visually what the 7 elements of art look like, then you'll be fine. So the last thing that we need to do is form. So in form, when we're working in that space, this final little section, we're just going to draw maybe some forms of some of the shapes. So the form of a triangle might be a pyramid. The form of a cube would be a square. The form of a square would be a cube. And then a form, that is a terrible circle. The form of a circle would be a sphere. You got to add some value there to kind of give it the illusion that it has depth. But also you might want to, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. You might want to experiment with like drawing letters and adding some, like blocking them out. If you feel comfortable, it's kind of like that's basically 1 point perspective. But you can experiment with something like that if you want to. It's kind of hard to do with the keypad on your laptop, but it's not impossible. And always go back and add some color, people. Color is fun. It's available to you. Why not use it, right? So yeah, there you go. There's a composition. There's one way to create an image utilizing all the 7 elements of art. I'm going to post this first thing on Thursday morning, so all of you guys should be able to see this video in Teams. And at some point throughout the day after I get my first and second period class, probably sometime during first period. After I get you guys started tomorrow morning, I should be able to post another separate tutorial on how to upload your image to Focus. But remember, if you want to download, you're just going to hit File and then Save, and it will automatically download a PNG to your downloads file. And Focus accepts PNGs, so those documents are easy. Those are easy to upload. You just have to figure out where to go in Focus, which I'll show you in a separate tutorial that I'll post in just a little while. But go ahead and get started working on your compositions. The other thing that might be cool to do, so I'm just going to close this out and switch to Teams. If you go into your class period in Teams, I know my section looks different, but you should have a list of teams on the left side of your screen when you log into Teams too. And if you go onto the online gallery of student work, this is where I would love to see you guys share your images. I will give you extra participation points in class for sharing your work here online. And if every time you comment on someone else's work or give positive feedback on someone else's work for the first quarter, I'm going to use that as extra credit and participation grades. During the second quarter, this will be required. So you might as well get used to it. So in the online gallery of student work, I don't have anything in here yet, but you could post your image there and just say, hey, this is the work that I created. What do you guys think? Or, whatever. So Clecky is super easy. The other website that I showed you guys that I had on the board was this sketch.io, and it's called Sketchpad. And I like this one okay. I think that Clecky is a little bit more intuitive, meaning that it naturally just makes sense for how people draw the way that it is. But maybe if you're left-handed, having the toolpad on the left side is more helpful. I don't know. It's really pretty similar, this whole thing, except there is this, if you click on the star feature, you can add shapes, which are kind of fun. You could add perfect squares to your composition if you wanted to. So that's cool. And you could add some organic shapes, not the gear, but this burst. Why not that? Okay. It's kind of like a flower, so that's an organic shape. That's pretty cool. You can transform these whenever, you can make them bigger or smaller. The fill option is kind of cool. It's got these fun kind of radial. See how it filled it in with the color? That might be fun to experiment. This is a little bit more, I guess you have a little bit more options here in the sketchpad app than you do in Clecky, but Clecky is super user friendly. It's very, very easy to use. So whatever you guys want to do in here, as long as you can show me that you know what the 7 elements of art are, I'm going to be fine. That's all I need to know. I don't know why my keyboard keeps popping up, but you can draw with your stylus or your mouse pad in Sketchpad the same way. You can make lines. But this feature where it gives you the shapes is pretty cool. You could go back and, I don't know where the redo is in here. Oh, there it is. Okay. So if you made a square in Sketchpad, then you could turn it into a cube. Oh my gosh, this is terrible. It's really hard to draw for me tonight. It is also almost 9 o'clock at night, and I am making this video for you guys. So maybe I just need to go to sleep. So you could add some depth to these squares and make them forms. That might be fun. So whatever you guys want to do, as long as you can show me the elements. I feel like this would have been a better tutorial if I had not waited until 9 o'clock at night to do it. But, you know, hopefully it'll be helpful. And I'll post another one later with how to upload your images to Focus. Okay, so see you tomorrow in Teams, guys.